So today I have a customer that wants a race port manifold. Now this is a standard port manifold. The race port manifold definitely takes some extra work. This line gets a little bit thinner here, and the radius definitely gets deeper, and the opening gets larger. Basically, the material taken out more towards the radius here is larger. It's much more aggressive. I basically have to break out the micrometer to make sure I don't go too far. Now, people question that whether or not I've, like, the manifold's integrity. I've put 47 pounds through a ported plastic manifold. So, let me tell you guys, it works just fine. There's plenty of material left. If you're exploding manifolds, there's something wrong with your car. That's got nothing to do with porting the plastic manifold, unless somebody's doing it wrong, which is very possible. A lot of people don't know how to get this lower radius right to actually create benefit. This lower radius actually increases the volume of the port, and this is part of what increases the top end. So, more to come. I'll kind of show you guys as I go along in the process, the rough edging and things like that. I'm not going to give away all the details of how I do my measurements. That's not going to happen, but I will show you guys why it's beneficial. Also, the fact that on the cylinder head, all right, is way larger than the OEM. It's way larger. So basically, this is a restriction entering the cylinder head, and you're making airflow changes. This is what kind of kills the power in the top end, that going from fast airspeed and a small port, then back to a basically an immediate transition back to a larger port, and then you're shrinking it again. The thing is, this doesn't have a long runner, so this creates a problem because you're going slow, fast. So this helps even out those transitions, creating more top-end power. I don't normally give away secrets, but I might as well at least teach some people some things. When it comes down to porting, one of the things that you run into is if you're just going back and forth, you're going to end up with a high spot in the middle. Because you're going here, you're stopping, coming over here, and you're stopping, and you get a high spot in the middle. So I have just a tiny bit of a high spot, but it's not actually from that. I put that there intentionally. Now, in order to solve this problem, what you're going to do is you're going to actually, let me get the speed down here, and you're going to basically crisscross, okay? So by doing so, let me get the speed down. And by crossing, you level out your surface. And now it's a little difficult to do with one hand, but as you can see, it's flatter than it was before. We had a high spot in this area, and then now this spot is flatter. So this is part of, when it comes down to port work, you know, beginners get in there and they get all this waviness, and I see a lot of it, and unfortunately I see some actually Fk8 engine builders that build their heads and they have the waviest walls in the cylinder head, and that's just a really big time lack of understanding of experience of what to do when you get a high spot in there and how to avoid it. Just like making a nice clean radius, you know, it's not just about, like, I can go in there and I could do it with a cartridge roll, or I could do it and by making my life easier, and I can use different shaped burrs. Now I'm going to give away all my burrs. Like, this is just one that I use. This is for more quick removal. But believe it or not, it leaves a pretty smooth surface here. So I do my best to not make this any worse. But even so, when I'm done, the smoothness of the surface is really good. The appearances don't really show how good it really is. You have to go by touch and let you know how smooth it is. It'll never be glossy again because we're not putting it in a plastic mold, but it sure as heck is smooth enough where air is not going to stick to it or create a problem. Now for one of the most important steps is this radius here. Now, there's a good bit of material here, and I know why I hunted it, but they also put a lot of ridging here. So this definitely gives me opportunity to blend this down further, and what this does is increase the port size more, allowing an easier transition into the runner of the intake manifold. A lot of people skip this and don't do this right, so there's no benefit. So until you compare a ported manifold of mine to somebody else's, you're not going to see the differences. I have seen firsthand, compared to some other manifold porters in other states on the West Coast and stuff, where I picked up 10-15 wheel horsepower just by putting the manifold and putting one of mine on, so not one of theirs. So just because the blending is done incorrectly, that's got a lot to do with it. So a few things. Your eyes are deceptive, but your hands are not. Your hands can feel more than your eyes can. So now this port obviously is the one next to it that is not finished. This is closer to finished. We're not completely finished. I have some blending to do up here and here to create a little bit better transitions and mess with this radius a little bit more to keep it to the shape I want. And then I will have officially a race port. The race port goes deeper into the manifold and has larger radius entries. This just helps increase more of the top end. Now what I'm doing here is I'm feeling the radius with my hands to give me an idea of what it feels like. You just don't always go by visual. Visual can be deceptive depending on lighting angle and things of that nature. There is a little spot right here that I'm going to take care of, although to be honest with you, it wouldn't really do anything as far as really increasing output. It's just my way of just being very meticulous in the work that I do. In order to create the perfect shapes, I do a lot of different things. It's not just any one particular tool that I use, any one particular set. I even start out with something as aggressive as this and go down to, I can even go into and using like a Dremel, and I can use the Dremel to create the radius here, but this has to be big enough first. Because this is a race port, this gets used now because this has pretty much the perfect shape I'm after, and I can know how far I can go in the depth here to create this radius here and this larger opening. It's definitely helpful, but it's not the answer. There's still always a skill involved with this, no matter which way you slice or dice it. So here is a standard port, and we can see the radius is not cut down as much as a race port, where a race port we can definitely easily see this opening is significantly larger. We go further back, I blend further down. This takes a lot more time though to do, because it's a lot harder to blend a transition here that's going to be beneficial for flow. If you just cut back into a straight line and you don't actually create a nice transition here, air's not going to make this short radius here down into the manifold. Again, you're also, another thing you're doing, a lot of people don't realize that you're actually you're adding manifold volume. A significant amount of material gets taken off of here, so some of the gains are in manifold volume as well. But even if we stand back and we can see, you can see into this port much more easily than you can see into this port. And this is the difference between a race port and a standard port job on an Fk8 TD port and manifold. Again, this takes a lot more time to do this. You're literally talking like 40% more time to get this done versus it is to do a standard port work job.